This webinar is 1 hour and we are planning approximately the following agenda. The first 20 minutes, RBC will tell us about the financial aspect of the fraud. That will be followed 20 minutes from a presentation from an employer liaison from EMCN regarding employment fraud and fake job postings. Then we will have 20 minutes for your questions. And if there are more questions, our speakers graciously agree to stay longer. As many questions as there are, they're gonna be all answered. So now I'm honored to introduce to you our speakers today. Folaki Okusania, Assistant Branch Manager and Advisor with RBC, and our main contact and very important contact. So in case you have any questions about RBC, employment opportunities, or anything else, you feel free to connect with Folaki. Her email will also be provided in my follow-up email later today. Andrew Lovo, Banking Advisor from RBC, will help Folaki for this first part of the webinar regarding the financial fraud. Then we are very honored to have Komaljit Mataro, who is Employer Liaison with Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers, who is going to share her experience and knowledge regarding fake job postings and all the doubts you may have in terms of applying for jobs. So join me, please, to say welcome to our first guest speakers, Folaki and Andrew.
Good morning, everybody. It's always a pleasure to come back to share useful information that you can use in your settlement journey. Our team is the RBC Meeting Place, situated here in Edmonton. And what we do is that we help newcomers to Canada navigate the waters. RBC has a very soft spot for newcomers to Canada because 1 out of 5 Canadians were born outside of Canada. And trust me, if you have moved from another country to come settling in your country, it's never an easy process. However, with the help of people who have walked the path before, the journey can truly be made a lot easier. And that is why RBC came up with the newcomer meeting place. It's not like a regular branch or a regular bank where you do everyday transactions. It's a place where you get useful advice, banking and beyond banking, to help newcomers settle faster. We leverage our own expertise as well as the expertise of partners. And we know for sure that one of the areas that newcomers to Canada need help is in the area of careers. And that is where we're happy to work with ERIAC and other newcomer agencies like the EMCN to help newcomers achieve their career goals. And that's one of the reasons why we're gathered today. This team is available in about 5 locations across Canada. We've got 2 in Ontario in the city of Brampton and Markham. We also have another one in Vancouver in British Columbia and one in Calgary. And we on this call today are the team from here in Edmonton. The good thing about the meeting places is that you do not need to be an RBC employee to get advice from the RBC meeting place. You don't need to be an RBC client, not employee. You don't need to be an RBC client to get advice from this platform. So any newcomer to Canada, regardless of where you choose to bank, is welcome to the RBC meeting place. We have access to more than 240 language partners. So that means that it doesn't matter what language you prefer to be served in, we have the capacity to speak your language. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic, fraud and cyber fraud. And going through this topic with me today is my colleague, Andrew Olowu. We're going to talk about fraud, what it is, how it happens, and how to protect yourself. I'm sure you wonder, why is this topic so important? Now, listen, we're not here to scare you or make you worried, but we're here to give you important information, because there was a study that was done sometime in 2016 that Canadians lost over 29 million to fraudsters. You can imagine working so hard to make money. We all know it's not easy to come by money. In Canada, especially, you earn your money. It's not, some people believe that when you get to Canada, the money's on the road. But you and I know the reality. The money doesn't come to you just like that. You work for it. And when it comes, it will be painful to lose it to the wrong hands. And that is why it's important for us to talk about this topic, what is fraud and how to protect yourself from becoming a victim. At this point, I'll hand over to my colleague, Andrew, to take us through the very first part of this conversation. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Falake. Thank you, Elena, as well. So fraud, this is something that we tend to hear a lot about, even if we don't understand it, or even if it's a different member of our families or our friends that have experienced it, right? So what exactly is fraud? Fraud is a point where someone is deceiving or tricking a person or a group of people out of trying to get financial gain or personal gain, right? And fraud has different sects to it, right? Different components. There's the cyber fraud. We're in the age of technology right now, where a lot of the programs that have been designed to help make our lives easier have now been turned to things that would now bring us harm, right? But not to worry. Our job here today is to educate you on ways to mitigate those fraudulent actions or those fraudulent activities. Right. So cyber fraud is basically a crime that's committed with the use of the online data or even the information that you share with the public. And it's also important for you to note that with cybersecurity, right, it's the practice of ensuring that systems work the way that they're designed to, right? But then typically, like I explained earlier, with the advent of things that will make life easier, the cyber criminals, those are hackers who get access to your information, either through your online posting. And all of these are things that we'll cover as we go along in this presentation. Okay. And so typically how fraud happens, we as humans have the most control of how this fraud happens. It's typically as a result of our negligence, right? Sometimes your information that you've put up online can be used as a way to access you or to scam you, right? People would typically get all of this information from either it's your bank card that you've just left carelessly, or they even go as far as using scanners. So typically people think, oh yeah, my card is safe. It's in my pocket, in my wallet. But then there's also devices that they now use these days that all they need to do is stand beside you and it scans the card. And then that way they're able to scan your chip and it clones your card, right? So that's one of the ways. Another way that people get that this fraud happens is by getting your PIN or password compromised. So typically you find people going to different websites, or you get pop-ups, pop-up messages that tell you, oh, sign up for this, or congratulations, the most popular one, congratulations, you've just won something online. It's just a pop-up. And then you're like, oh yeah, finally I won something. And then you click on that link. Well, unfortunately, you didn't win anything, but you've just exposed yourself to a different network where you're now vulnerable. Your information is now vulnerable as a result of you clicking. Sometimes it might not even be your fault. You might go to the ATM, or you might be using your card at a store, and you're trying to put in your PIN. You put in your PIN, but someone is reaching over your shoulder and they're looking at what your PIN is. So in that moment, if they're able to clone your card, now they have your PIN. So they can use your PIN and then transact on your behalf, right? And like I said earlier as well, like sometimes it's not even your fault. Your card could be stolen. Your information could be stolen. Your identity card could be stolen, right? All of those things are ways that fraudsters are able to gain access to your information, right? They watch your PIN, they use, or you use an unsecure network to open your online banking, for instance. Those are ways that people are able to get access to your information, because hackers are always finding ways, newer ways to get access to our information. Okay, so the types of fraud and the fraud tactics. So listed here are a few of the tactics that we'll be looking at today. I already spoke about the password compromise, which I will discuss a bit more as we go along. Okay, so what exactly is password compromise? Basically, the simple term is, as we all know, with passwords, passwords are more or less like that security blanket, right? We have passwords in place to protect our information from people who shouldn't have access to it, right? And a common way that scammers get access to your information is by breaking into your online accounts, be it your social media, be it your online banking, even your email, right? All of these things are areas where scammers are able to get information from us, right? By using multiple, most times we tend to use different computers, different devices to access our information. Some people, for someone that like me who works at a bank, I see it so many times where people will just come in and then they ask their friends, can I use your phone to log into my online banking? But then their friends might have this way where they're able to store passwords. That way is then making their passwords compromised. And then some people would also use like easy passwords like 1234 or password as their password. Like those are easy to guess things, or they put 000. Like, no, you should make your password should be stronger, more it should be harder for people to guess. And also people have this habit of writing down their passwords in a paper and putting in a wallet. Just try and ensure that you're not falling for that. If you're going to do that, make sure it's camouflaged in some form of way. Okay. Also, another type, very common type of fraud that we usually see, especially at the bank, is the debit and credit card fraud. So like I had mentioned in one of my examples earlier about people using their credit cards on sites that they don't know. It could be like a betting platform or a gambling platform that they're not very sure of, right? Some people, like I've had a client before who he was speaking to some people online, and it happened to be girls, right? So for him, he thought, oh, he was speaking to a real person, and he'll come into the bank and say, oh yeah, I want to send this wire. But then he had already been compromised in the sense that he had put his information on a website that he wasn't sure of the authenticity of, right? Also, with this credit card fraud, people could swipe, you could go into a store, it couldn't even be your fault, it could not even be your fault. You go into a store that you don't know, you swipe your card there or insert it, the machine might have a cloning device. You could go to like maybe even a barber shop or an unattended ATM machine that could have a cloning device as well. So sometimes some of these hackers or scammers, they would put like a device or a clone machine by the ATM where you insert your card. And then as you insert it, it clones your card. And then that way they're able to utilize your card for all sorts of things. So please be very careful when you're doing all of these transactions. Also with social engineering. So social media is a very big part of the day and age that we're currently in. We're constantly using our emails, we're using our phones constantly, right? And oftentimes you get emails from different people. So I'm Nigerian, and then there's this running joke that there's always a Nigerian trying to scam you, right? Because we've all come across that one email that says, oh, I have money here, I have this ailing issue, and then I need someone to transfer the money to. We've all at some point gotten these emails, right? And a way for you to be very cautious about this is that you're not clicking or opening emails that you don't know of, right? Or you don't want to get yourself involved in. With social media, we all do, a lot of times we all do like tags, geo tags. That's one very good way for people to reach you, right? So you're putting your locations there, and then with your information online on social media, or even like through certain things, they're able to get access to you by just some scammers even go as far as getting a hold of your information. They call your provider, your financial providers, they give them your date of birth, right? Because that's one of the security questions they would ask you. They give them your security information, and then they start getting more and more information as you go along. Sometimes you leave papers around, hanging around, those information would still be there, right? And with the emails, there's different things. So there's things called spoofing and as well as phishing, right? So phishing emails, these are the emails that you typically get from scammers, fake emails, pop-ups, and all of that. Smishing as well, this is an example, this is a very good example of smishing. So it's just like, it looks like it's an actual bank, or it's your bank that's reaching out to you. They've come in the form of the trusted party. Like the most popular ones that we have these days is like the CRA calls. Sometimes with the CRA calls, you have sometimes they will have the number, and then they even go as far as now they tell you, hold while we connect you to your agent, your representative. I recently had that. And with that, you think, oh yeah, it's probably the CRA that's reaching out to me. But no, they use all of these different outlets just to reach you so that you can fall for it, click on those links, or just provide information that you shouldn't be providing in the first place. Okay. And then with financial abuse, right? This is like your money being misused by someone you trust. This is often the case. Sometimes they're seniors, right, who are in care homes, or who cannot really do a lot of transactions by themselves. And then they trust people, either their children or their caregivers, to help them transact with the hopes that they would have their best interests at heart. But typically, this isn't the case, because sometimes they start with, oh, let me just buy this thing for myself. And then it graduates into more things. And then they start to take advantage of these seniors, right? So I'll pass it on to Folake to continue with the presentation and just go about explaining what social media scams could look like and how to prevent it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. All right, so on to social media scams. Now, when all of us these days, one has one form of social media presence or the other, whether on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all of that. Many times we're using those platforms to stay in touch with those we love and to share updates for our own people to know. But beware, the fraudsters have also grown to use the same platforms to perpetuate their evil plans. So for example, you receive a friend request from a strange person from nowhere just because they want to trill and follow you to learn more about you. That is social media. The other one is malware. Malware has to do with a link that might have been clicked and would have installed something on your device. So because there's something installed on your device, it tracks everything you do on your device. So it tracks your passwords, tracks communications you receive, and other confidential things that you do on your device. That is malware. And where do you get it from? You might have received an email thinking they're trusted persons, and you'd have clicked a link. Before you know it, something that is that could harm you is installed on your device. there is also the identity theft. This is a case where, without your knowledge or consent, someone has been able to create an exact version of you. Imagine going somewhere and you're hearing that there is another Folake in there. Meanwhile, you know you are the real Folake, right? So it could happen. Someone might have stolen your identity and created a cloned and exact version of you. That is identity theft. Debit card, let's talk about how to protect ourselves. We've talked about all the different types of fraud, all the malwares, all the social media scams and everything. Let's talk about how to protect ourselves from becoming victims. Because it's one thing to know about it, it is another thing to know how to keep yourself safe. So the very first thing you need to do for debit and credit card protection is, first of all, shred your documents. If you have statements that come to you in by physical post, it's time to switch them to electronic statements. You do not need to receive your statements by paper. Sign up for electronic statements, let it go into your online banking. When you need access to it, you can download them and print them as necessary. Don't throw them in the recycle. People go through people's garbages these days to look for information. So don't become a victim by throwing away your important documents into the recycle garbage, okay? Now also limit what you carry. Sometimes when people lose their wallet, they lose everything, from their passports to their driver's license to, it could be really a daunting task recovering what you've lost if you lose your wallet sometimes. So in order to stay on the safe side, limit what you carry. Like Andrew said earlier, that some people look over your shoulders, when they're talking about doing your banking, maybe at the ATM and all of that, some people look over your shoulder. You never know who is looking. So be aware of where you are. Be aware of your surrounding. Cover your fingers if you're putting in your PIN. I mean, let people feel you're being weird. You're better safe than sorry. So be aware of your surroundings. If you suspect something is wrong with that environment, please don't do anything financially related in that environment. So for example, you go to an eatery like a McDonald's or a Starbucks and there is free Wi-Fi. Be careful. Even though those Wi-Fi are free, they're in public spaces. That means everybody has access to it. And that means that there's a possibility that information you share on that place could be accessible by others. So be careful what you do on public Wi-Fi. So for example, if you need to do your banking, switch off your Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, and use your mobile internet instead. Or wait till you get home and use your trusted platform. Okay, to keep yourself safe online, you also need to create complicated passwords. Keep it random, long, unique, and secure. I know that, yes, you may begin to forget your passwords if you have to now begin to create new passwords every time. But I'll tell you one trick. If there's a password you're familiar with and you're used to, what you can do is to just change one of the characters to an equivalent in symbols. So for example, if one of your password required like an X, other than use an X, you can use an asterisk, okay? The other one, if for example, your password has an H in it, so other than use a regular H, just change it to a hash, just think of ways to make it unique and secure, okay? I've already talked about doing your banking in the right or safe places, okay? The other part is not to click on unfamiliar sites. Do not visit suspicious sites, because what happens? If something is inside on your device that's going to help them to track you, then you're in trouble. Many times people have come to the bank to tell us something happened in their online banking that they were not aware of and they didn't authorize. They usually had to go back to their phone providers or device providers to reinstall everything, to wipe off the computer and start afresh. You don't want to lose any important data, so be careful. The other thing is to trust your gut feeling. Don't give out any information over the phone. I'll tell you this, your bank will never call you to ask you for your PIN or your password. So be very careful. Don't give out account numbers or your PIN or passwords to people. Nobody even should ask you about that. So your bank will not ask you. So I don't think anybody else should ask you about those very confidential information. The other part of it is to avoid oversharing certain information. You can provide general information that is for everybody's consumption, but when things are becoming a little more confidential, be careful. don't share this on public platforms. The other thing is to be wary of quizzes, because that's how attractive they make them. And then before you know it, you're becoming a victim. And finally, it's important to know your connections. If you don't know someone that is asking you to become friends with you on social media and the person cannot tell them how you're connected, please run. Do not connect to such people. They might be out to steal information from you. I think that's how far we're going to go. At this point, I'm going to hand over to Komaljit.
Thank you so much, Fulake. And
welcome.
Andrew, that was really amazing, because we all know about the Nigerian prince. But for example, the free Wi-Fi, I didn't know about that. So that's all great. Thank you, guys. And we will check the questions after Komaljit's presentation. Thank you, Komaljit.
Wow, this was a very insightful information. I have been through all these scams. I'm thankful that I haven't fallen into, but they are really, really good tips. Thank you so much, Folake and Andrew. Hello, everyone. My name is Komaljit Matharu, and I work with EMCN as an employer liaison. What I do is I help people who are looking for work, and I help employers who are looking for good employees. And I do also do some kind of research on what's going on in the market, especially these days about job scams. I know it can be frustrating these days because a lot of people are looking for work, and in our virtual world, because of pandemic, it's easy to fall as a prey to these scams. So let's take a look at some of the red flags that we need to be aware of, so that we don't, fall into some wrong kind of employer and lose our information and money as well. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so normally when you look at some kind of job posting, if it's fake, the first thing is there will be no contact information, or there will be unclear information. So legitimate businesses always have their history and contact information on their websites. So make sure whenever you see a job posting, maybe Facebook or on Kijiji or anywhere on the internet portal, just try to go into their websites and look for the valid information. Sometimes when you can scroll down to their website, if you notice, there is a registration. So if the registration is like, usually the scammers, they are registered the current year, 2021. So I saw lots of the scammers had 2020 registration because the pandemic started at that time. So be aware of that. And also the emails are not legitimate. So for example, so if there is they will come out as, they could come out as an employment agency saying that rockconsultingxy@gmail.com. But the legitimate email would be brucewayne@rockconsulting.ca. So you look out for those emails, but definitely doesn't mean if somebody has a Gmail. Maybe there are small business owners who might have Gmail account, but you have to do your homework and make sure that this email is legitimate. Okay, number 2. So they will always ask for your contact information first. I've seen lots of job postings on Facebook because I have joined a lot of groups on Facebook, and they, post to different variety, and they would just give one-line information and you contact them, and they'll ask you like a lot of information about yourself before sharing about anything about the job opportunity. The best thing is to ask questions. Instead of giving your information, ask them questions. They might ask you for your SIN number or bank information before an interview or an offer. So that never happens. A legitimate employer will never ask your SIN number or bank information before any interview or any conversation, in person or virtual like this, face-to-face. So be aware of that. Number 3, so tasks are not defined. So like I said, there would be a very short paragraph of saying this is the job, is about, but they are not going to give you the name of the company, the type of the work you will be doing. But there are some employment agencies who do that because they have contracts with a lot of companies, but they do not disclose their names. But if you go back and ask them, I would like to know what company you are hiring for, so that I know and I can target my application. They will definitely give you the name of the company if they are legit. So be aware of that as well. Sometimes they can use famous companies' names as well. In fact, you would think that as a job seeker, this happens to you. As an employer liaison, can you imagine I'm looking jobs for a lot of people, and I have encountered the same issue as well. And funny thing, they used Manpower's name, and it was a funny email. I was skeptical, and I kept, digging in. And later I found out that they were just using their name, and it wasn't a legitimate email. So be careful. Okay, so definitely scammers would show urgency. A job opportunity with some of urgency or limited spot. They need people right away. They want you to join tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. So they will ask you to make the decision within an hour or 2 hours. So never, I know, we are, when people are looking for work, they can be anxious and they can be frustrated. But, take a moment, deep breath, and, do not rush into that decision. No one is going to offer you a job within an hour, or they would like you to start next day, unless it is coming through a legitimate source, like your employment counselor, your teacher, or someone you trust, your friend. Nobody will force you to make a decision within hours or ask you to join the very next day. So the next one is spend money to make money. So legitimate companies do not require you to pay for a job. I don't know how many times I keep telling all my participants, my clients, that there is no such company who will ask for money to give you a job. But there are so many people still think, because they are desperate, they need a job, they think that maybe we will pay $500, then we will get a job. No, this never happens in Canada. So please, please do not pay anyone. If somebody asks for that information, ask them, cross-question them, go back to your teacher, go back to your counselor, consult with somebody. Do not ever do that. Do not give your bank information or SIN information or check. It is very, very important. Always keep that in mind. Okay. So job offer without an interview. So this is the recent happening that have happened with my clients recently. So I did find a job posting that sounded really, really good for my clients. I reached out to them, and I was skeptical, but I wanted to give it a try. And what that person was doing, he was asking for information and was connecting clients through Hangouts. So he was just texting, and within few texts he offered the job, and he was asking them to join like pretty soon. And people were coming back to me, what's going on? Nobody interviews like that. And that is true, and that's the right decision to do that. Nobody does an interview on the text, or in today's world, if this is virtual, Zoom, WebEx, be aware of the virtual platforms, consult with your friends, which is very important. This never happens. So make sure you remember that whenever you're applying for a job or connecting with any employer. Okay. Company is so desperate for you. You are the right fit for the job. You are wondering that you've been applying for months and months, and you haven't gotten even a single call for the job, and this person wants you so bad. They want to hire you right away. But make sure you do your homework, if this company is legit for you or not, if this job is going to work out for you or not. Okay, so I have some of the do's and don'ts in the end. So do not accept any job offers that are too good to be true. Sometimes, you know, they just send out a job offer, like 10-page job offer with a really good money plus commission. Always doubt, always send those documents to your teacher, your counselors. Always be skeptical about that. Do not answer your emails with doubtful email address or contact information. So I know even I receive like a lot of emails, you know, that says from maybe a bank or, you know, from a company. But when I click on the name of the email, it will pop up the all emails. So the email is not going to be legit. It's going to be XYZ or something. So if that sounds fishy to you, investigate the company, consult your counselor, you know, never just to hit the link. So that's how the scammers gain your information from your computer, from your phone. So never hit that email. I never even open that email if I suspect something is suspicious. And do not provide your confidential information unless you have gone through the whole interview process, face-to-face or either virtual interview. There are so many companies who are legit, but be careful. You do that when the right time comes. And never, please, I request you, do not pay the company. Stay up to date on the scams. Just go on, you know, there are so many news coming up. Just to listen to the news, connect with your great counselors that you are connected with, your teachers, listen to them, always stay in touch with them. And I know how frustrating it is. I have been through when you're looking for work, but the key is, you know, you are aware of your surroundings and make the right decision for yourself. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, I'll take those questions. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Komaljit. You scared us now more than Andrew and Fulaki. However, that was all very helpful. And we all have clients who are all wondering, like I had one with the Bitcoin approach, and other ones that are not really fake, but like pay for the training and then we will hire you. So I can see our executive director, Doug Piquet, is here. So Doug, maybe you may want to have a few words with us.
Oh, thank you, Elena. And yeah, this was so informative. You know, it's funny, how many years do we, you know, face this kind of information? We've been exposed to it. And of course, my ego always gets in the way because I get an email from somebody and they're reaching out to me, you know, whether it's a service or, you know, big company or even maybe a recruiter. And as soon as you start, you know, like it's too good to be true, of course, your ego gets inflated because, hey, somebody's acknowledged me and recognized me for all of the great things that I might be able to offer, including credit cards and bank cards. You know, it's just putting things into perspective. And this workshop today was so good at reminding us that, you know, keep things in perspective, everyone. You know, I think when those kinds of emails come through, or and also the other thing is being self-aware. That is really important. So we are carrying these tools in our wallets, in our purses, and they are vulnerable. And I didn't realize how vulnerable we are. So I think at the same time, as Elena said, I don't want to walk around being paranoid and super anxious all the time. But at the same time, I think it's just good thinking, good, you know, just a good thing to be, is just being self-aware and also keep your ego in check. And, you know, nothing beats the hard work of looking for a job the old-fashioned way, right? And the way employers have been doing it for years. So those ones that are reaching out to you with some of those questionable emails, yeah, be careful. But this was fantastic. I think we all need these reminders on a regular basis. So thank you to RBC, and Komaljit, thank you so much for frightening us a little bit more. And but I think it's great to be informed.
Thank you, Doug. Sarah, what kind of questions do we have?
Yes, Elena, we do have an observation here from Irfan. Irfan mentioned, I have noticed the North American countries do not use OTP for card that are not present transactions. I always wonder that banks here have some type of security measure at the back end. Don't you think we should have OTP or two-factor verifications or authentications for such transactions?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, OTP means one-time password. That means a password you use, and as soon as you use it, it's no longer valid. You have to generate a new one every time. Yes, it's a good approach, but trust me, it could be frustrating if every transaction requires that. So generally speaking, for everything you do in North America, you probably need to have either a card present, a physical card, or you'll be required to put in the card information, like if you're shopping online, you'll be required to put in your card information, expiry date, and the CVV code at the back or at the front of the card. So that means you probably have the card with you. On the other hand, if you're doing like a transaction online, you don't need to have your card with you, but you want to pay through your PayPal or your online banking, maybe through Interac, it will still require some username and password. So that's a level of security. And for many of these transactions, when they happen, if it wasn't authorized by you, you need to reach out to your provider, your bank or financial institution, because sometimes these things happen. Maybe we didn't take a look at our statements. And once it is 90 days from the transaction date, it's hard to put in an investigation. So good practice, keep an eye on your statement, check it at least monthly. If you can't do it every day is accessible for all of us now since we all have online banking. But if you don't go in frequently, at least try to go in at least once in 30 days, giving enough time for the institution to put in an investigation if something has gone wrong. But generally speaking, you usually have to have your card information if you don't have the physical card. And in many cases, if you don't have the physical card, you probably can't remember what your full card number is. It's 16 digits. I don't remember mine. So I don't know about you, but if I have to do a transaction online, I need to hold my card to view what I'm typing in. Do you want to add something, Andrew?
So I think you pretty much covered most of it, Falake. Another thing is like with shopping online, right, or using your cards or bank cards, like your bank would typically have that kind of extra security to cover you. So a lot of banks have that, where if your card were to be used by someone other than yourself, if there was a fraudulent transaction on your account and you were to report it, as long as they're able to verify that you didn't do that transaction yourself, there's typically insurance that covers that. So it's something that you would be able to speak with your financial institution to get more information about.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Andrew and Folake. There's another question from our very own Gustav. Hello, Folake and Andrew. Your presentation is fantastic. Do you have any advice on how to shop online? For instance, when we are buying flight tickets or clothes or shoes and other items because of the COVID-19, many stores are only available online.
That's a really, really good question. I myself, I tend to shop online. So one of the things that's very important for me is the safety of my information. So typically I would say that if you're shopping online, ensure that you have typically some don't save your card information on the website. Don't do that. So typically you see that with Amazon, places like Amazon or some stores, they would have the option for you to save your card information. Don't do that. In the event that their sites were taken over by scammers, now they have your information, right? So what I would suggest is that, first of all, you ensure that whatever sites that you're shopping at, you're very sure of them, right? Even though there's instances where cloning could happen, but then still make sure that it's a site that you're pretty familiar with, right? Especially when it comes to shopping. Like now you can do your grocery orders online. A lot of stores like Walmart and superstores, all of those places, they have that feature. So I'll just say, don't store your credit card or debit card information on those platforms, and also be aware of the stores. And there's also this lock sign on your browser screen, typically when you're entering in secure information. So you should always make sure that that lock sign is there. It's like a padlock. It's at the top of your the browser when you're doing that. Yes. So when you're putting in any secure information, it should be there. If it's not there, I'll be a bit suspicious. Okay. So and then sometimes, so this is a hack for booking flights. So typically you could do it under the incognito screen. Sometimes you could even get cheaper flights by doing that, but this is not the session for that. If you're just not sure of all of those things, my thing would just to be do your research about the companies that you're shopping with. Make sure that their websites are legit. That's pretty much all I would say.
Thank you,
So
Andrew.
do you have anything else?
Yes, I want to add something more. So one other thing to keep in mind when you're on the website, check the address bar. Usually you see the HTTP and / and the address. Ideally, to be sure it's a secure site, it should read HTTPS. The S means it's secure. So HTTPS before the //. If you check it out and it doesn't have the S after the HTTP, then be careful. You don't put in any information that is confidential on that site. Okay.
I do have an additional tip for people on online. So on this session, so there is a site called Have I Been Pwned? So it's Have I, HAVEI, been pwned. So pwned as in PAWNED. So what the site does is it shows you if your information has been compromised. Typically, it will be emails that you might have used on sites that have been compromised. So that way, once you go to that website, you're able to see the information that has been compromised. That way you can change your passwords right away if you see that one of your emails or your phone number has been compromised. That way kind of helps you to keep track of what's out there and what's not. So it's a tip I learned from a cybersecurity session I was in. So yeah, I thought to share that with you guys.
Thank you, Andrew.
Amazing, Andrew. Would you mind sharing the information in the chat box so everyone could be aware of that amazing website? And
Sarah, I just saw that we have Carrie from Braden. So Braden Center for Learning also have employment programs, and they refer to us, many clients, as the Mennonite Center does. So I'd like to invite Carrie to discuss the commission-only jobs, because she also has as much experience as Komojit. Unfortunately, Carrie doesn't have a camera, but she'll tell us. Welcome, Carrie.
Hello, Elena. Thank you so much for introducing me. Yes, the desktop I am working from does not have a camera built in, but on the topic of commission-only jobs, I find especially for people who are seeking work in business, administration, or especially marketing and sales, you will see advertisements for jobs that are labeled as commission-only or commission-only for the probationary period. I have had more than one client burned on that in the past. They use that 3-month period to generate real leads for these employers and are never paid anything for their labor. Commission only is not legal. According to employment standards law, employers are required to pay a base wage when your income from commission is below what you would be making for minimum wage for your hours. I would also like to point out that any agreement you make with an employer is superseded by employment standards law. So even if you sign something saying that you are working for commission only, it is still not legal for an employer to not pay you a base wage for your labor. I find that this is a fairly common scam that I see, because rather frankly, if you are having people do work or labor for you and you are not paying them, that is, in my opinion, a form of theft. It is theft of your time and your efforts, and you deserve to be paid for the work and for the labor that you do for a company. So I do not recommend even responding to those sort of advertisements, or if that's not what's listed explicitly, turning down job offers that are listed as a commission only offer, because that is not a legitimate job.
Thank you, Carrie. This is really very important point. And we even discussed with Komojit earlier, those agencies which are practically absolutely legit. However, they ask you to find 50 contacts, like insurance agencies, like World Financial Group, Freedom 55. So, Komojit, would you like to provide your thoughts on these agencies, which are not fake, but are they good for our clients?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thanks for the question, and Carrie, it's very important information for everyone. I know there are some marketing companies who just pay commission, and I know there are companies who pay base salary plus commission, and that's how it should be. But I know Canada Prime Marketing, sometimes they just advertise their jobs like they're only commission based. But it all comes down to your conversation. You talk to them, you know, there has to be a base salary, and they have accommodated clients with base salary plus commission, but I think it should always be base salary plus commission. And especially being a newcomer, it is very hard because everybody needs to pay their bills. Now, I know it is not the right job for everybody because it depends on person to person, your personality. Not everyone is a salesperson or a community person. There might be one out of maybe 50 who has who knows a lot of people in the community who can generate that list. So be aware, do not just go ahead with that. Just consult your counselor or your teacher. You know, this is the plan that they are offering me. Is this the right path for me? Honestly, with my experience, this is not the right path for the newcomers. So they need to have some kind of base salary to pay their bills. That's my thought on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Komojit. Sarah, any other interesting questions in the chat box?
I think that's all it for today, Elena. I don't have anything in the chat box.
Oh, that's great then. So, what a perfect timing. Incredible. So, what's next? I'm going to send you the recording this afternoon. I'm not going to send you a survey because from this presentation, I understood why people avoiding answering surveys now, because they believe it's fake. Thanks to your presentation, I understand why the number of people responding to the surveys goes down. So just the recording of Lakis information, Komojit information. So feel free to connect with us anytime you have any doubts about anything. And as Komojit said, talk to counselors, talk to close relatives, and talk to Eric, and talk to RBC. Doug, any last words?
No, but I just checked that have been pawn site and didn't like the response with my email site. I have got some work to do. So yeah, thanks, Andrew, for sending that along. I'm going to be doing some repair work, I think.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Thank you guys so much. This was really, really informative.
Thank you, RBC. Thank you, Komojit. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.